Today you are going to take the Topic 12 review. Please follow along with me and check your work. If there are any questions that you still have, circle them and then come see me so I can go over them with you. Number 1. Marvin writes a number that shows 70 parts out of 100. Select all that could be Marvin's number. Well, this first one is 7/100ths, so that would not work. 7/10ths would work because 7/10ths is the same, if I was going to add zeros, as 70/100ths. If I just add a 0 to the 7 and the 10, it equals 70/100ths. So 7/10ths does work. 70 out of 100 also works. Same with 7/10ths or 70/100ths. 70 out of 10 would not work because if you divided that, that would just equal 7. So that one does not work. On your test, you're going to have one very similar to this. Make sure that you understand that 7/10ths is the same as 70/100ths, and how to write the number is both a decimal and a fraction. Number 2. Which symbol makes the comparison true? Write the correct symbol from the box. If we're going to compare these numbers, they both have 29 as their whole numbers, so we cannot compare those. But if we look at the first digit that's different, I have a 4 and a 6. And since 6 is greater than 4, then this would be the one that works. So 29 and 48/100ths is less than 29 and 69/100ths. Number 3. Lucy buys a puzzle for $3.89 and a model airplane for $12.75. We want to know how much more did the model airplane cost than the puzzle. Since it's asking us for how much more, I know that I need to subtract. So when I write this problem, I want to make sure that my greatest number is on top. So I have $12, put your decimal, and 75 cents minus $3, line up the decimal point, so 3 would go right under the 2, and 89 cents. Now all I need to do is subtract. I can't take 9 from 5, I can't take 8 from 7, I can't take 3 from 2, so I'm going to cross off my 1, make it a 0, and make the 2 a 12. Now I can borrow from the 12 and make it an 11 and make the 7 a 17. Now I can borrow from the 17 and make it a 16 and make the 5 a 15. And now I can subtract. 15 minus 9 is 6. 16 minus 8 is 8. Put your decimal point. And then I have 11 minus 3 is 8. 11 minus 3 is 8. So I have $8.86. So my answer is A. Number 4. Which point is labeled incorrectly? Explain. Okay, if I look at this number line, I see that I have 3, I have 4, and I have 5. So in between each number, I can see with this particular line, there's 1, 2, 3 in between, which would be in fourths. So I have 3.25 would be right here, 3.5 would be right here, and 3.75 would be right here. So A is labeled correctly. Now I'm going to have 4.25, 4.5, and this one is labeled incorrectly because it should be 4.75. Since there are 4 sections between 4 and 5, they're divided into fourths. And this would be 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 3/4 is the same as 0.35. So for my answer, I have C is labeled incorrectly because it should be 4.75, not 4.9. Go ahead and label your number line correctly. This line right here should be 3.25. This line right here should be 3.5. Then we have 3.75, which is labeled correctly. Then we have a 4. then 4.25, 4.5, which is labeled correctly, and then this one should be 4.75, not 4.9. Number 5, Catalina takes the money shown to the bookstore. We want to find out, does Catalina have enough for all 3 books? And if not, how much more money does Catalina need? Explain. All right, this is a multiple step problem. The first thing that we have to do is add up the money that she has. So she has $20, $30, $35, $40, $41. So I'm going to write that part down. So she has $41. Now let's count up the change. So we have 25, 35, 45, 46, 47, 48. So she has $41.48. Now the next thing that we need to do is add up how much all 3 of the books are going to cost. So I'm just going to do this on the side. So we have $14.95, $16.55, and $16. Make sure you line up your decimals. I always like to put the decimal down first. 5 plus 5 is 10. Regroup your 1. 9 plus 5 is 14, plus 1 more is 15. Regroup your 1. 4 plus 6 is 10, plus 6 more is 16, plus 1 is 17. Regroup your 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. So she needs $47.50, and she only has $41.48. So no, she does not have enough money, so I'm going to write no. Now the next thing we need to do is find out how much more she needs. So now we're going to set up a subtraction problem because we're going to subtract the amount that she has from the amount that she needs. So we have 40, I'm going to change the color so it's easier for you to see, $47.50 minus $41.48. Okay, I can't take 8 from 0, so I need to regroup. So we're going to change that to a 2. There's a 0 there. And 7 minus 1 is 6. So she needs $6.02 more. Now since it says explain, we need to explain that in words. Go ahead and write down the sentence. She does not have enough money. She has $41.48, but all 3 books cost. Now I made a mistake here. Whoops, I'm going to erase that. But all 3 books cost, this should say 47, not 41. So change the 1 to a 7. I had made a mistake when I was typing. But all 3 books cost $47.50. So she needs $6.02 more. B. Catalina chooses to buy only 2 of the books. Choose 2 books for Catalina to buy, then find out how much money she will have left. So in this case, you can choose any 2 books. I am going to choose the 2 bottom books, $16.55 and $16. So I am going to add those 2 together. So $16.55 and $16. So those are the 2 books that I chose for her to buy. Now if I add it up, put your decimal. She will need $32.55. Now it wants to know how much money she will have left. So she has $41.48. So if I subtract those 2 books that she is going to buy, $32.55. Make sure you put your decimal. I'm going to highlight the decimals. Now we just need to subtract these numbers. So 8 minus 5 is 3. We can't take 5 from 4, so we're going to regroup and change this to a 14. Put your decimal. You can't take 2 from 0, so we're going to regroup. And she will have $8.93 left. Now, if you picked a different combination, you're going to have a different answer. But as long as you show your work and I can see what you're doing, you will still get it correct. Number 6. Write a fraction in a decimal that represent the part of the grid that is green. Well, if I look at the grid, I can see that there are 100 boxes. So this you have to be careful with because it says the word and. And a lot of times you guys will do one of them, but you won't do both. So I know that this is out of 100, so my fraction is going to be out of 100. And if I add them up, or if I just count them, each row going down is 10. So I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 63. So 63 out of 100, or 63 hundredths, and as a decimal, that would be decimal point 63. So 63 hundredths. And that is a decimal point, even though it looks a little funky. It's kind of hard to write with my stylus sometimes. All right, number 7. Draw a line from the decimal to its equivalent fraction. Well, I'm going to start with 2 hundredths because I know that this one is 2 hundredths. Now, if I have 20 out of 100, I'm kind of going backwards here. If I take a 0 off of each, I will end up with 2 tenths. So I know that this one is 2 tenths, or 20 hundredths. Okay, now going up one more. If you take a 0 off from each side, you'd have 20 over 1. So this one equals 20. And my last one, if I take my zeros off, because remember, you can just take your zeros off, you're just dividing. We have 2 over 1, so it equals 2. All right, number 8. Choose yes or no to tell if the comparison is correct. So we have 7 and 27 hundredths is greater than 74 and 7 tenths. Well, that would be a big no, because 74 is going to be a lot greater than 7. All right, B. 1 and 24 hundredths is less than 1 and 42 hundredths. That would be correct, because we're comparing our tenths place, and 4 is greater than 2. C, we have 58 and 64 hundredths and 48 and 64 hundredths. Well, 58 is greater than 48, so that would be a yes. And last, we have 138 and 5 tenths and 13 and 85 tenths. Well, 138 is greater than 13, so that would be a yes. Number 9, write a fraction that best describes point R on the number line. All right, we're going from 40 to 41, and it looks like it's divided into, let's count. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 into eighths. So this would be 40 and 1/8, 40 and 2/8, 40 and 3/8, 40 and 4/8, 40 and 5/8, 40 and 6/8. So we're just going to write 40 and 6/8. Number 10, explain how to find the sum of 3 tenths and 4 hundredths. Well, if I have 3 tenths plus 4 hundredths, I need to make them equivalent. So I'm going to add a 0 here and a 0 here, and I'm going to end up with 34 hundredths. You're going to have to explain this on your test. So you can say something like this. I added a 0 to the numerator and the denominator of 3 tenths to make it equivalent to 4 hundredths. Then I added the numerators. Number 11, use the table below. Create a number, line, and plot length of each trail. Okay, so you're going to have to do this on your test. So you're going to create a number line, and you might have to do it in 2 rows to fit it. So I'm just going to do that to make it easier. It's a continuous row, but since we don't have room, we're going to make it into 2. Now, if we look at our numbers right here, we have to use hundredths because we have 6 and 89 hundredths, 6 and 95 hundredths, 7 and 9 hundredths, and 6 and 98 hundredths. Now, I know I normally tell you to go ahead and start with a whole number, but you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to start with a tenth. So we're going to start with 6.8, and we're going to end with 7. So I'm going to number this number line and then do this in your notes. Okay, this was a little bit difficult for me to label since the numbers are so small, but I'm going to read them to you. So this one would be 6.8, 6.81, 6.82, 6.83, 6.84, 6.85, 6.86, 6.87, 6.88, and this one would be 6.89, so that would be trail A. I'll put an A here. Then we have 6.9, oops, let me erase that. There we go. Whoops, I'm going to go back to put trail A, since that one got erased. Trail A would be at 6.89, which would be right here. All right, then we have 6.9, 6.91, 92, 93, 94 would be right there. 6.95 is right here. So that would be trail B, the one that I just highlighted. Then we have 6.96, 6.97, 6.98. So 6.98 is actually right here. So I'm going to move that one over with an arrow. So that would be trail D. Okay, so that one, just move it over. It's in the wrong spot. 6.99 would be right here. Then we have 7, which is right there. And we go all the way up to 7.09, which would be trail C. So just make sure that when you're writing yours that you label correctly the numbers that the trails are. And if you're labeling by hundredths, you don't have to label every hundredths, but make sure that you have enough lines. Number 12. Phil collected 60 eggs and sold 44 of them to the local grocer. Phil wrote down that he sold 44 hundredths of the eggs that he collected. Did Phil write the decimal correctly? Explain. Well, no, he did not write it correctly because he sold 44 out of 60, not 44 out of 100. So he did not write it correctly. All right, we're moving on to the performance task. The nature club at the school devoted a month to learning about different local birds. The bird trait photos show information about several birds they observed. The club leader asked students to analyze and compare measures of the bird traits photos. Randa was asked to write the mass of the red-tailed hawk as a fraction. Label the mass on the number line and write the equivalent fraction. So we are looking for the red-tailed hawk. So we are just looking for the mass, and the mass is 78 hundredths. So if I'm going to label it, I've got 71 hundredths, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77. Right here would be 78 hundredths. So I'm going to label that as 0.78 hundredths. Okay, right there. And then it says write it as equivalent fraction. So the equivalent fraction would be 78 over 100. And we're looking at the mass, so we're looking at kilograms. All right, part B. Melanie was assigned to compare the wingspan of the blue jay and the sandpiper. Which bird had longer wings? Show the comparison on the grids and write comparison using symbols. So we're looking for wingspan this time of the blue jay. So the wingspan of the blue jay is, I'm going to write blue jay. I'm just going to write a BJ for blue jay, and the wingspan is 28 hundredths. And then it says the sandpiper. So the wingspan, I'm just going to put SP for sandpiper. SP for sandpiper. And for the sandpiper, the wingspan over here is 2/10. So if we're comparing these numbers, we want to see which one is greater. Well, if we look in the tens place, we have a 2 in each place, but I can add a 0 over here, and I can see that 28 hundredths is going to be greater than 2/10. Now let's show that on the grids. We're going to make this one 28 hundredths, and we're going to make this one 2/10. So for 28 hundredths, I'm going to color in 2 whole rows, and then 8 more on this row. And for 2/10, I'm just going to color in 2 rows. So I can see that this one has more colored in than this one. Part C. Mila compared the wingspan of the red-tailed hawk and the great horned owl. Explain how to use place value to find the longer wingspan. Show the comparison using symbols. So I have the red-tailed hawk. I'm just going to put RT for red-tailed hawk. And the great horned owl, I'll just put GH. Okay, if I look on the other page, we're looking at the wingspan. The red-tailed hawk is 1 2/10 of a meters, and the great horned owl is 1 3/10 meters. Well, if I'm comparing using place value, my ones places are the same. When I'm comparing these two numbers, my ones places are the same. So then I look at the tens place. And since 3 is greater than 2, then 1 3/10 is greater than 1 2/10. I'm going to do that in another color so you can see it better. Or 1 2/10 is less than 1 3/10. And then if you had to explain it in words, you can just say, use the greatest place value that is different to compare. In these numbers, the tens places are compared. Since 3 is greater than 2, 1 3/10 is greater than 1 2/10. Number 2. Gerald found the mass of the great horned owl and the sandpaper combined. Show how to write each mass as a fraction and then write and solve an addition equation. So we're looking for, once again, the great horned owl. So I'm going to put GH for great horned owl and sandpiper. And we're looking for the mass. So the great horned owl, the mass is 1 8/10. Whoops. And the sandpiper, the mass is 6/100. So now we need to write an addition sentence and show this as a fraction. So we have 1 8/10 plus 6/100. So what I'm going to do is add a 0 to my 8/10 to make these equivalent. So my answer is going to be 1 86/100. And we're talking about meters, so I'm just going to use an M. All right, number 3. The blue jay photo shows the wingspan of a blue jay Susanna observed. Susanna said that the wingspan of the blue jay is greater than the wingspan of the great horned owl, since 1/4 is greater than 1/3. Do you agree? Explain. Well, this is kind of a trick question because this is 1 4/10 feet, and the great horned owl is measured in meters, and the wingspan is 1 3/10 meters. So you cannot compare the two unless you changed this into feet. And since feet are smaller than meters, the great horned owl is actually going to be greater. So no, because you can't compare feet to meters without changing them. So actually the great horned owl is going to have a greater wingspan.